Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to St Mary's Vicarage on this Friday, the 7th of August. And here we are again at the weekend. A fabulous sunny day outside, and looks like we're in for a real heat wave. It's going to get hot, hot, hot. Temperatures of above 30 degrees, they say. So do look after yourselves and make sure you drink plenty of water and plenty of suntan lotion, wear a hat, and hopefully look after everybody. So, as they say, the best laid plans of mice and men. Kate and I were planning a trip to Holland, which was going to begin on Sunday. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Bill. And the plan was to get the Eurostar Eurotunnel across to Calais with the Mini, and then drive to Belgium and spend a night in Belgium, and then go on to Holland for 5 nights, and then come back, stay another night in Belgium, and then head home. But of course it was announced yesterday evening that if you're travelling to Belgium now and coming back to the UK, you would have to quarantine for 14 days. So that scuppered things a bit, because to get to Holland not going through Belgium is possible, but it's a rather long journey through Germany and up and round. And also looking at the European list of countries and COVID cases, I wonder how much longer it's going to be before Holland is also restricted, as I think it's they restricted Spain when it was 26.9 cases per 100,000 of the population. And looking at the stats this morning on the European website, Holland is now at 24.8 per cases 100,000. So we might have found ourselves in a situation that even if we'd managed to get there, we would be coming home and facing a 14-day quarantine period, which probably wouldn't be too bad for me because I could carry on doing bits and pieces online, but Kate needs to get back into school and sort her classrooms out and things like that. So unfortunately, we've had to cancel our trip to Holland, but thankfully it doesn't look like we've actually lost any money, because all of the hotel bookings I made and such like, I took the option of cancellation virtually up until the point that we arrived. So thankfully I think we're okay. So we're now but all is not lost, as they say. We are now moving on to plan B. We do have a plan B, C and D. If it gets to E, I think we'll give up and I'll put a tent up in the front garden. But hey-ho, so plan B now is we've still got our tickets on the Eurotunnel to get the car across to Calais. So I think we're just going to stick with France, and we're going to go and have a wander around Normandy, which is an area we haven't really done much. We did a little bit of Normandy many, many years ago when the two boys were, well, one was a baby and the other was a toddler. And of course, you're a bit limited to what you can see and do with children that age. So I whipped out my, just trying to find it now, where have I put it? I got out my fantastic guidebook that I've got for France. I don't know where I put it now. There we go. It was there. So I got out my French guidebook, looking around. So looking at places like Arras, which is a fantastic place to visit, and Amis and Rouen, and round there. So we're going to just do a bit of a road trip round France. And hopefully, in a sense, that gives us a little bit of flexibility that if... I get emails now, texts, if any of the COVID restrictions change for the UK. So even if we hear if France changes, it would be pretty easy for us to get back fairly quickly to avoid having to quarantine. So there we go. But that is the new normal, as they say. And I always like a bit of a sense of adventure, so the fact that we've just got to go with the flow now is fine. So I've booked a couple of places up for the first night, and then we'll just see where things take us. But anyhow, it will be good to get away, and there's plenty to see in Normandy and lots of nice French food and everything. But I am disappointed about Amsterdam. I went many years ago, and so did Kate. So we will be going back. We will try that trip again, but won't be this year. It might be something we'll do next year if restrictions allow. One of the things we do want to go and see is Monet's garden, so I am trying to sort that out because of course that's in Normandy, and that will make up for not being able to go to see the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. So yeah, somebody's just joked that if the worst comes to the worst, I could probably get a refugee boat back to the UK. Yeah, hopefully we'll have to avoid that, but there we go. Anyhow, so that's plan B. If plan C is enacted, then we will be heading somewhere in the UK. But it's quite interesting because I was sort of going through Trivago and lastminute.com and bookings.com, all of those sorts of things. And actually, a lot of the places in the UK are fully booked if you do searches on things like that. So I think a lot of people are probably maybe being more sensible than we are and sticking to UK holidays. So if you want to go anywhere in Cornwall or Devon, that is pretty much booked up. So there we go. Anyhow, we will still have a nice time away. The important thing is to be with the person that you love, and we'll go away, and I'll have my camera, and I'm sure there'll be interesting things to point at. So back to today. Today is a minor feast day. It's just an Anglican one from this book. Interesting guy for those of you who are musical. Today the church gives thanks for the life of John Mason Neale, priest and hymn writer. John Neale was born in 1818, and whilst an undergraduate at Cambridge was influenced by the ideas of the Tractarians. He was the founder of the Cambridge Camden Society, which stimulated interest in the ecclesiastical art and which played a part in the revival of the Catholic ritual in the Church of England. Whilst warden of Sackville College, East Grinstead, a post he held from 1846, Neale founded the Society of St Margaret, which grew into one of the largest Anglican women's religious communities. Neale is remembered as an accomplished hymn writer, and his influence on Anglican worship has been considerable. He suffered frail health for many years and died on the Feast of the Transfiguration, 1866. So he actually passed away yesterday, the 6th of August. So John Mason Neale, priest and hymn writer, we remember today. Now, turning to the Gospel set for today, we're still with Matthew's Gospel. And it's Matthew chapter 16, beginning to read at verse 24. Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone wants to be a follower of mine, let him renounce himself and take up his cross and follow me. For anyone who wants to save his life will lose it, but anyone who loses his life for my sake will find it. What then will a man gain if he wins the whole world and ruins his life? Or what has a man to offer in exchange for his life? For the Son of Man is going to come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and when he does, he will reward each one according to his behaviour. I tell you solemnly, there are some of these standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming into his kingdom." This is the gospel of the Lord. So one of those readings that, in a sense, is pointing to the eschatology, the end times. And also, in a sense, pointing to that pilgrim road and the need to pick up and carry our cross. And in a sense, that's always a difficult passage, I think, for us as Christians today, maybe particularly Western Christians. in a sense where we're very mindful, or should be very mindful, of the great privilege and blessings that we have to live in the country that we do, despite the fact we maybe all moan about the government and this, that and the other. We are indeed richly blessed to live in the community and the society that we have, with the freedoms that we have. And most of us don't face the day-to-day hardships and challenges of living that other brothers and sisters in Christ face in the world, thinking particularly of those in Beirut and Lebanon at this time, where things have been very, very difficult. And the explosion earlier this week really is almost the straw that will break the camel's back. So in a sense, when we talk about picking up our cross, I think this can be a difficult thing for us in this sort of situation, because many of us don't necessarily suffer for our faith in that way. There's no fear of persecution in a sense of being a Christian in this country, though we might get the odd funny comment, or people might think we're a bit bonkers, or this, that and the other. We don't fear death for gathering together to worship, or persecution in that way that other Christians do. So it's a difficult thing in a sense, this idea of picking up our cross, because if we do, then maybe it's quite a light cross that we have to carry. But I think the way to look at this is in the sense, because we do have the privileges that we have in living in this country. We do have the privilege of freedom of expression, freedom of worship. We can gather together as Christians and go to church on a Sunday without fear of persecution or threat or violence. I think then for us not to, in a sense, use that privilege in a positive way is really a crime. Because the times I've spent with Christians from other nations where persecution is a reality, I remember I spent a day with Canon, and if you remember him, he worked with Christians in the Middle East, in Iraq and Afghanistan, and also other places of Christians as well. And in a sense, for them, they cannot understand why we, as Christians here in the West, might be so reticent about sharing our faith, about saying to other people that we are a Christian, and that following Jesus and having Jesus in our lives is an important thing in our lives. Because they say you can say that without any worries. Maybe somebody might turn around and say, oh, you're daft or something like that. But what sort of worry is that? You know, people call me daft all the time. I don't know about you, it happens a regular occurrence for me. So what is there to worry about? And this is so important, I think, for the mission of the church in the UK, because we're not doing great. Churches or traditional forms of worship and church are in a terminal decline, though new ways of worship, fresh expressions and all this sort of thing, those are growing. And it's always, in a sense, a very interesting thing. And with my rural field officer hat, you know, it is something, it is a difficult thing for us. And there is a sort of a reluctance in our country, in a sense, to be open about sharing the Christian faith. That can go the other way, because I think, you know, if we look at what happens in the States, it can get a bit crazy, and maybe that isn't the British way. But I think, in a sense, there is something we can say about the Christian faith and its foundation, and in our country, in law and how we live and everything like that. And actually, there's a lot of good that we can share about it. Now, the established systems and structures, whether it be the Church of England or whatever denomination that you belong to, yes, indeed, they are frail structures with all sorts of problems and institutional issues and things like that. And if you want, I could wax lyrical about that, and you've probably heard me about it before. But where the church, where the Christian faith is at its best in this country is at grassroots level. It's the ordinary, everyday disciples that live in parishes like Handley or Shrivenham or wherever you happen to be, who quietly go about, in a sense, following that pilgrim road, caring for others, sharing the good news where and when they can. That, in a sense, is really the kingdom of God, not the palaces of bishops and the halls of church commissioners or whatever it may be. That really is where God is to be found. So I think in that essence, when we in this country talk about picking up our cross and carrying it, we have to realise that we're not being asked to carry a heavy burden. And because we're not being asked to have carry a heavy burden, and because we have such a privilege in this country, then even more so we should be not ashamed to share our faith with others and what it means to us, and how it can, in a sense, bring community together as we seek to share God's love, mercy and acceptance of all with other people. And there is one thing that our nation really does need at the moment, and I think is needed for a long time, and that is a real sense of love and acceptance. And if we as Christian pilgrims on the road can share that with others in our own small way, in our own communities, then indeed the kingdom of God has come near. So that was the gospel passage for today. Just a bit of a reminder of looking ahead. So today, this is the last broadcast until the end of August, because hopefully I'm going on leave somewhere, even if you see a tent pitched at the end of the vicarage garden. This Sunday, people are being invited to join in with the worship at the cathedral. The links have gone out with the notice sheet, and also next Sunday. And then the fourth Sunday of August, we'll be having a Holy Communion service down at St Rumbold's, Pentridge. If the weather is like this, we'll be outside. If not, we'll be in the church, but reminders about that nearer the time. We had our final Wisdom House for August yesterday evening. Good discussion was had by all, and that will be picked up again in the final week in August. So, folks, I hope you have a really good day, and I hope the next few weeks are pleasant for you and enjoyable in whatever you're doing, whether you're escaping and going away or whether you're staying locally. I hope the weather is good, and may blessings be upon you all. So do take care, and I look forward to continuing our broadcasts again in about a fortnight's time. If there are any particular issues with regard to the church or pastoral things, then please do speak to our wardens, to Sue Curtis up here in Handley, or to Mary Ferguson and Jane King down in Pentridge, and they will be able to help, or at least point you in the right direction. We do have Father Michael Foster, Reverend Michael Foster. Though he's retired as the priest of Tarrant Hinton, he is technically house for duty at the moment, so he is about. So if there is pastoral need, I spoke to Michael this morning. He will be around to help as well. So every blessings to you, and do have a good rest of August, and see you all soon.